So welcome everyone. This is our second webinar for the Finding Dory group. For those who joined the group after our last webinar, I hope that you know who we are and what our group is. So we're an ad hoc group of cruisers who get together and commonly prepare for the next transat east-west passage in the season. This is the second webinar in the series of webinars that we have. In the announcement post that we put up back in May, you will see the list of webinars that we have scheduled. I think the next one is in about 2 weeks from now, and we'll tackle the sailing and cruising through Orca territory. And then from then on, I think it's almost every week we have one webinar scheduled for you. Today, it's all about provisioning, medical provisioning, and food provisioning, as well as nutrition on passage. Knowing that a well-fed crew is a happy crew, and a healthy crew is a happy crew, I think our webinar is just as important as the previous webinar that we gave on preparing the boat, and the next ones that we are going to do on the weather and on safety and security on the boat. So in that, I'm very happy to be sharing this webinar. And actually, with the two ladies that are joining us, they will do the majority of the work. Sarah will start off. Sarah is a nutrition specialist. She called herself a nutrition advocate. She has been a chef on bigger boats. She's also a full-time cruiser. She is joining us from Brazil at the moment. And then the second presenter will be Carlota. Sarah will mostly concentrate on nutrition on passage, and then Carlota will take over more on medical and food provisioning. My name is Peter. I'll be your moderator during this webinar. To keep all the logistics and a good flow of the webinar going, I request everybody to keep their audio and the video muted, except the presenter. So that way we don't interfere, or background noise doesn't interfere with the presenter. We'll do the two presentations first, and then we will have ample time for people to ask questions. You can already, during the presentation itself, put your questions in the chat box. And then after the presentation part, I'll go through the chat box, and you can also then at that point unmute yourself and ask a question to Sarah and Carlota. I've been unpolite. I forgot to complete the introduction for Carlota. So Carlota is also a cruiser. Currently lives in Las Palmas, but is joining us from the French side of the Pyrenees. Together with her partner, she coordinates the Viking Explorers group, but also has a service that she provides to cruisers in provisioning services and additional logistic services in the Canaries. With that, without further ado, Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm from Small Vegan Kitchen, and as Peter said, I'm here to talk to you about the importance of nutrition for sailing and ocean passages. So the whole idea of my presentation today is get you to just a bit to rethink nutrition. So before we go in, just a little question for you. How confident on a scale of 1 to 10 do you feel in your ability to provide yourself and your crew with the nutrition that you think that you'd need to support the mental and physical well-being during a transatlantic crossing? So 1 would be not confident at all, 5 somewhat confident, and 10 totally confident you've got this. Now, you don't have to tell us, but if you'd like to make a mental note down on this on a piece of paper, or you can put it into the chat, it's a really good idea for us just to understand where you are with nutrition and if it's actually something you've thought about before. Okay, so we can continue. What we're going to be covering, we're going to be looking at why nutrition matters. food beyond fuel, what it looks like in the galley, ocean passage staples, how to preserve your food, make it go the distance, and then obviously question and answers afterwards. So as Peter mentioned, I'm a plant-based nutrition advocate. I work with sailors, cruisers, race teams, super yachts, and super yacht chefs. I'm looking at plant-based nutrition as a way of being a tool to help us work better, sail better, and live healthier. And I want to be able to prove that we don't need to have a super yacht galley in order to be able to bust out great nutrition for our crew. It all started on my 30-foot boat in a less than a square meter galley, with an idea or a desire more so to provide nutritious food for my family as we were sailing, because I felt we really needed it. Okay, so why nutrition matters. You're not just provisioning calories, you're provisioning resilience. And it's something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration. They buy the latest B&G gear, they kit out their boat, amazing sails, everything fantastic. But we rely on a fray bentos or a pot noodle to keep the crew going. And I actually think we need to rethink that and look at that. So when we think about the sailing conditions we're going to be in, it's intense, okay? And our muscles are continually moving. We're continually, exerting and using our body. We have to make tough decisions. A squall comes in, we need to reef in. How do we do it? Where do we go? All of these things that happen to us, there's breakages, all of these things, we need to have that mental acuity to be able to make the right decisions. And nutrition can really help us do this, okay? We're looking at, it's getting warmer. As you're going to be crossing the Atlantic, you're going to find it's getting warmer and warmer. We're going to be sweating more. How are we able to help our bodies deal with these changes in climate, and also stress changes? And then, we're just repeatedly out there non-stop. There's no break. Nobody stops the boat and we have all calm. So it really is about how do we sustain that energy? And we can use nutrition to support our immune function, which helps us, and also to help us aid recovery and reduce fatigue. So let's have a look. What's a balanced diet? Most of you will probably know this. So on a plate, we would have half of our plate should be fruit and veg. We should have an element of healthy fats. We should have a quarter of our plate with protein and a quarter of our plate with fiber-rich carbs. However, when we're at sea, our protein and fiber-rich carbs need to be increased, and the fruit and veg slightly less, which is something we often hear sailors talking about, oh, how do I keep my fruit and veg? And whilst that's super important to have it, it's actually the protein and the fiber-rich carbs which are really going to help you over your passage. So if we look at food beyond fuel, and we accept that what we eat will actually help us in the way we feel, think, and function at sea, let's look at those carbohydrates and why it matters for sailing. So carbohydrates are what give us energy, okay? So they give us through the form of simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Now, you might have heard about this. Simple carbohydrates are your white foods, so your potatoes, your starchy foods, your rice, white pasta. And your complex carbohydrates are what's going to give you that sustained energy over a long period. And that will be any grains or whole grains, so your brown bread, your brown pasta, things like that. And we need them, both of them, to be honest, because we sometimes just need energy right now because we might have just come in from a major sail change or having a bit of adrenaline going or working hard, hand steering if the autopilot's gone. And so we need that energy. And so white is great for that. But if we can mix a white and a brown together, then not only do we get that initial hit, but we can get a sustained energy source as well, which is really good. And so sometimes you'll find in race teams, especially, we can mix white and brown carbs. So if it's rice, we'll mix white rice with brown rice and grains to get that initial hit and then the long-lasting energy. Carbs also help our bodies recover faster, okay? They give us sharp mental focus when we need it. And this is a really good one. They're galley friendly. Most of the time, your carbs on your list are going to be products or food products that are dry sources. So your grains, your flours, your pastas, your rice, and they're the things that can last a long time if they're stored well. And protein. So protein matters for sailors because it's muscle maintenance and repair. It also gives us sustained strength. It helps support our immune system. And this is something that if you're not getting enough protein, your immune system will suffer from that. And you'll probably find if you've ever had a period in your life when you're not getting enough protein, that you are sort of getting colds or flu, things like viruses really easily. And so we need to make sure we're getting enough. Now, just so you know, if you don't have a really good, reliable fridge, or you're frightened that over the Atlantic crossing, you will be running out of meat, if that's your choice of protein, you can actually get all your protein needs from plant sources. So just make sure you've got heaps of tins or jars or dry chickpeas, legumes, your beans, and you'll be able to get your protein from that. Okay. They also fill us up, and you'll probably find if you were to eat plant-based protein that you will probably need less on your plate in order to be full. And then it releases steady energy, which is another good thing we really love when we're sailing. And then that's really versatile for provisioning. You can get everywhere in the world, whether it's the Caribbean or even in the Pacific. You always find legumes, so your grains, and it's something that you can always, and once you know and you're savvy and you know where you can get your protein from those sources, then really traveling isn't or provisioning in remote areas isn't actually as difficult. Good nutrition is also good hydration. And this is something we don't tend to think too much about when we're at sea. We have water and things like that, but we can also use food as a way of getting extra water. So fruit and veg are water-rich foods. If you have access, especially if you're leaving from the Canary Islands, you will have watermelon galore. That's a great source of water. Cucumbers, any of your veggies like carrots, if you can pre-cut them and put them in a Tupperware, then it's a great way of not only getting your fiber and your nutrition and your vitamins and minerals, but also getting water at the same time without having to drink. Remember, what happens quite a lot is people, when they're sailing, they'll come downstairs, grab a glass, scull it back, and then go back up. And that's actually the best way to keep hydrated, because the more we drink in a shorter period of time, the more we're actually going to go to the toilet and lose our salts and minerals. And so sipping all the time, or at least having access to cucumber, carrots, and fruits and vegetables, keeps the hydration and the minerals and all balanced. Needless to say, alcohol, caffeine, tea, they dehydrate. But if you're using herbal infusions, obviously you don't have that problem. Water, coconut water, which you can buy in supermarkets in Spain in Tetra Pak, and even having electrolytes on board when you need it. Now, if you're somebody who sweats a lot, it's really handy to have extra sources of hydration through these kind of foods, because you will be losing a lot more water than the average person. So that's just something to remember. And rooibos tea, it's a bush tea from South Africa. It's taurine-free, tannin-free, and caffeine-free. It's antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, which is great to help muscle repair. And it's a really nice drink to have. So what does it look like from the galley? Okay, so if we use smart provisioning to feed our body, to support our mind, still respecting the rhythm of life at sea, because we don't have access, to a kitchen in the same way. Our galleys, whilst they are great, at the same time they're continually moving. So how can we make a provisioning list? Now we know our body needs heaps of carbs, heaps of protein, and heaps of healthy fats. So this is just a list to give you an idea of how we can mix and match those things. So we've got rice, pasta, potato, kumara, which is sweet potato, bulgur, quinoa, couscous, barley, cornmeal. All of these grains are fantastic, and it's really good to be able to load up on your different kinds and different sources of carbohydrates, both simple and complex. So those quick release ones and the slow release ones. For protein, obviously we at Small Vegan Kitchen look at plant-based stuff. So we're going to be looking at lentils, chickpeas, beans, peas, tofu, tempeh, flour, Oats, almonds are a great source. Broccoli is a good source of protein. All of these things together, obviously, you can choose your own protein source if you would rather have meat or fish. And then your healthy fats. So avocados, nuts, seeds, peanut butters, or any nut butter, or tahini, which is seed butter for anyone who has nut allergies, olive oil, and olives, which are also fermented food, which are really good for you. So that gives you an idea of, so if now you're building your plate based on carbohydrate, protein, and healthy fats, then it allows your provisioning list maybe to change a bit or to be a bit more savvy and smart. High performance, easy cook meals. So things like overnight oats, super easy to do. It's just oats with milk of your choice. I generally use a soy milk or an almond milk, which packs up the protein. Then I add cinnamon, and if you want to add some sugar, always go for unrefined sugar like a demerara, or if you want to take honey, you can, and then just put some seeds and dried fruit in, and it's a fantastic thing. Really easy to make. You just mix it around and pop it in the fridge overnight, and the next morning you have a really healthy breakfast packed full of protein, packed full of carbohydrate and healthy fats. So that's a win-win. A banana and chickpea curry, because you've got to use your bananas. They're going to start ripening, and they end up ripening all at once. So yeah, so good way to use your bananas and get some potassium is with the chickpea curry. Rice and bean burritos with avocado being the healthy fat. Burritos will be your carbohydrate, and your rice and beans, extra carb. Maybe you could use a grain or a brown rice there, and then your beans packed full of protein. So again, we're getting that balance all together. A hearty miso soup. Miso is brilliant because it's fermented. It's really good for your gut. You've probably heard people talking about their gut microbiome and how important that is. And miso soup, one of them a day, is fantastic. Put it with a tahini or a peanut butter and noodles, and then a lentil and walnut bolognese. Walnuts are really high in omega-3, which is brilliant and helps the cognitive function of your brain. And lentils packed full of protein. You mix that with a brown or a whole wheat pasta for your bolognese. And again, you're being really savvy with the way in which you're cooking. And a perfect after passage meal, lentil dal with Egyptian rice. They're on my blog, the recipes. So please feel free to jump on there and get them. And then with morale, nutrition can really help morale. How can we do that? Make sure you've got some 70% dark chocolate and berries. They can be dried berries or fresh berries, nuts and seeds. We can make them together with a bit of coconut milk into what we would call a bark, which you would set in the fridge and ready to go. Just chop it up into little pieces and just put your hand in the fridge and grab one of them every time you need a bit of a boost. And then if we add the leafy greens, which are morale boosting foods, in a curry that we would use with some legumes, so some chickpeas or lentils, making turmeric, which is anti-inflammatory, which really helps boost our mood too, and the citruses. So we'd use some lemon juice in the curry, and maybe a dollop of coconut kefir for me or normal kefir for you. And we have 100% morale boosting food, which is not that difficult, to prepare out of easy staples that we can provision for. No worries in the Canaries. So the Ocean Passage staples, this is my list that I would definitely have just based on their nutritional value, their ease of sourcing, and also the fact that they're great for storing on the boat. Now you'll find that there's pots here of it says Integral quinoa. Now what you'll find in Spain is you can buy these ready-made pots of rice, which also have grains in them, and they are fantastic. In fact, we use them on a super yacht delivery for a race team, and they found them fantastic with their meal because it was a great way of getting a variety of nutrition through the quinoa, the seeds, and the brown rice, and the sustained energy. So they're brilliant to take, really easy on passage. You just basically open them up and pop them in a pan with a tiny bit of water just to heat up. Or if you have a microwave, some people have microwaves on board, you can use them in the microwave. So that's my list of everything that I always kind of have as a basic. And then if we come to food preservation, I use the vacuum pack. So I have a small vacuum pack machine, which kind of is really easy to use. I can buy the bags readily in the Canary Islands, and I just make my meals. Obviously, all my meals will be things like stews, like butter bean stews, miso and chickpeas, curries, chilies, things like that, the things that we like. And then I will double seal the bag and put that in the fridge, and I can get anywhere up to 5 days if it's not in a freezer. So 5 to 7 days max on that, depending on how good the freezer is and where exactly, sorry, not the freezer, the fridge is and where exactly it's stored. If you have a freezer on board, that's fantastic. You can do exactly the same, double seal the vacuum, and then pop it in your freezer. You can even make it in portions for your crew size or individual portions, whatever you prefer. You'll find that it's great for keeping nutrition packed in there. Really easy to cook. You can either just pop it, if you're doing individual portions, in a pan of boiling water, and then you have your meal. Yeah, these are the machines, so you get an idea what they look like. And then something I think is really important, attitude is everything. So if you think getting the right nutrition is not going to be possible, then you're right. And if you think, yeah, actually, now I have this information, I really think we can get some really good nutrition going on for our crew, keeping them healthy and happy, and then you're right. Okay. So now we've reached the end of the presentation. We'll go back to our questions. So now you have had a very short snippet of the kind of things we can do with nutrition to aid us and how we can be savvy with nutrition to help us have a better passage and to give our bodies what it needs. How confident do you feel now? Okay, so again, just right next to it, your number. If you want to pop that in the chat, or if you want to talk to us in the question and answer later, then I'd love to get your feedback and see if you are also looking at nutrition for passage in a completely different way than before. Thank you very much. I hope that was a little introduction onto how we can use nutrition to our advantage when sailing. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them later. I think I'll pass you back on to Peter now, and I think Carlotta's going to be giving her wonderful presentation.
Excellent, Sarah. Very good. I see we have questions already coming in the chat box. Thanks, Sarah. If you can stop sharing your presentation, and if Carlotta can prepare hers, and if you can mute Sarah, so we have a little bit of background coming in from you. And there we have Carlotta coming in.
Can you see it?
Yeah, yes. Yes, I can.
Perfect.
So if you go to presentation mode.
Now?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. I'll mute myself. The floor is all yours, Carlotta.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for us. This is, as Peter said, I organize Viking Explorers, and these both seminars are much reduced versions of the one we performed in December for the fleet. So I try to compress like the most important for you. So we start with provisioning. This is like the intro to get ready for the Caribbean. The main currency in the Caribbean is the EC dollar, but the French islands, for example, Martinique, Saint Martin, Guadeloupe, they use the euro, and Trinidad and Tobago have their own currency, that is the TC dollar. We count like 3 ECs is roughly €1, like to make it easy with the calculations. But anyway, you can pay US everywhere. They accept the dollars everywhere. But it's a good idea to have always cash with you to buy in the small markets, on the small shops that they don't have the machine. And at least for us, being from Spain, we have like huge commissions on the bank. So we take plenty cash at once just to have for the month. And this for me like was really, really hard to understand when we crossed back in 2018, like the difference on the kilos and lives and liters and square gallons. So it took me ages to learn when I was buying fruits. So 1 kilo is over 2 lives, it's like 2.2. And 1 liter is about a US quart. And there are 4 liters to 1 US gallon. Or 4.5, it is imperial because it's like 2 different kinds. Then I prepared this guide about the fresh produce rough guide, like how many weeks each fruit or vegetable will last if you buy it fresh and non-refrigerated. For example, potatoes, onions, garlic, apples, lemons, they will last 3 weeks. Carrots, cucumbers, pears, pineapple, 2 weeks. And then the things for the first week will be avocados, lettuce, tomatoes, bananas. But you can always, like, you should buy super green stuff on the Canaries. So it would last like almost forever. Then there's this section called Boat Pantry. It started with the canned goods. We had this story with one participant one year that before trying the can, he bought like 20. And when he tries one, he didn't like them. So he has 19 left to use during the crossing. So it's a good idea to try one before buying, just to know, to make sure that you like it, because it's like different brands that where you have at home. And also it's really important to select the right size, like depending also on how many people you have on board, there are different size of cans. So stock up with the ones that will fit your crew. About the dry goods, like I was really interested what Sarah said about the white and the brown cereals and pasta and so on. So always store them in the bomb-proof air plastic containers. I have a really good tip in the next slides about how to keep them insect-free. So we will share that soon. The fresh fruits and the vegetables, it's really important if you can to buy them that they have never been refrigerated. If you're starting from Gran Canaria, there's like 3 markets around the marina that have like non-refrigerated food that are really good options, like to buy there. Also keep it dry and well ventilated, and you will have plenty time during the crossing to inspect and twist them so they don't get any bruising. For the meat and for the eggs, also the eggs is really important that they have never been refrigerated. And then one guy gave me the tip like to put Vaseline on the eggs, on the coat. But like I think this is not necessary for the Atlantic, maybe for the Pacific because it's a longer passage that you can do that, but not for the Atlantic. And always keep them in sealed containers because if one breaks, you will have a mess wherever you take them. And for the meat, as Sarah said, vacuum packed and also frozen. If you have the freezer, is the best way to keep it. The treats and the snacks, it's so important to have treats or chocolate, like because there's so many occasions to celebrate, even if you don't have kids on board, like you see land every 1,000 miles, or you have a birthday or whatever. There's so many reasons to celebrate, and you will appreciate have some sweets there. The drinks, again, it's so important to keep you hydrated. If you don't drink milk, like you want milk like liquid, the power milk is a really good option and it lasts forever, and the packages are really big, so they do last. And also have tea and coffee, arroibos, like Sarah said, like for example, like to offer for the next person on watch, and have when you're getting closer to the Caribbean, it's getting warm and warm, so like you will need juices or water or more things to keep you hydrated. And in case you have some heavy weather that you cannot cook because it's impossible, that happened to us on the way to Cape Verde, there was no chance to eat. I had like biscuits or crackers, or I boiled eggs in advance and they mix them with a can of tuna and then eat it with the bread. Or this one in the corner, the one that says adventure food, is this kind of food that you just add hot water and you have like pasta bolognese, or there are so many different companies that are doing that now that are really, really, really good. Storage. I'm that kind of person that is obsessed with any new sound of the boat that I don't know what it is. So it gets me crazy until I found out. So do the storage is really important. For example, the fresh produce, the hammocks are really good but it needs to be like the small hole, because if not, for example, the lemons or the limes can't go through. And the potatoes and the onions, not on the hammocks, they are better stored in a dark, cool place, but never together. We will also talk about that in the next slide. The cans, I used to store them like on the locker under the sofa and mark on the top of the can what it is, so I can easily see it and no need to take and turn around every can to see what it is. Just with the marker on top, says tuna or beans or whatever it is. Pest proofing. I hate having insects, any kind of insect on board. So with the years, I learned so many tricks that I hope you can use. If you buy pasta or rice, like remove it from the plastic bag and put it on the airtight container, because that happened to us once, that there was one of these on the top, the ones that can fly, on the back, and I didn't see it. And I made the mistake not putting it on the container, and it went through the package and was infested. Like the whole sofa was infested and they fly, and it was really disgusting. For example, also the cardboard on the milk package, never on board, because the cockroaches put the eggs on the corners and you don't see it, and then they are inside the boat. I wash I know it's a lot of work, but I wash every piece of fruit over the table before putting it on board. I do it on the dog. I have like a cube and put like vinegar and water and clean every piece of fruit before coming on board. Also, the insecticide, I will share on the WhatsApp group the ones that I discovered that for me is the best, one for cockroaches and one for ants, because the ones in the Caribbean are really bad and they didn't work and it was so bad. And always, I never put the shoes on the boat before disinfect them in case I have some eggs or something on the sole of the shoe, and then I put it on board. The high pressure cooker. At the beginning, when I was living on the boat, I hated it because I thought it would explode and I didn't know how to use it. But then I learned and it was like my best friend. The time reduced a lot. The consumption of gas also is very reduced. But also if there's bad weather, like wear the trousers and the boots in case there's some hot spills, and secure the pan in the stove with the clamps. That's logical. And they're really safe to use in hot conditions if you feel that you can use it. Also, if you have fridge or freezer, someone told me once that you have to assume that it will break down, and you can rely everything on that they will work the whole trip. For example, if you make food in advance, don't put it warm on the fridge. Just let it get some cold before, so it doesn't work a lot. And I also organize the meat by colors, so that my packages were frozen and vacuum and by color, like yellow for chicken, red for beef, and everything that you can see what it is really fast. And there's some items that we put on the fridge that they shouldn't be, like the ketchup or the mustard, the peanut butter. And if you are not a good fisherman, don't rely don't count on fish as a meal, because maybe you don't fish. What I did, it's like making monthly menus with all the ingredients and the quantities I will need. So that helps me to prepare for the provisioning for the crossing. And then I prepared this for you guys, some tips for keep the food alive. I try them all. I recommend them every year, and at the end, people is happy. So I hope you find them useful. Like the fruits and the veggies, you have to keep them separately, because the fruit have a gas that make the veggies ripen faster. So they have to be stored separately. If you put lemon juice on the avocado, on the part of avocado that you won't eat, it helps to prevent the browning. Also, what is really good is the bee paper, the bee wax paper, like to conserve the food. Like I really love that. Never ever stored in plastic bags, like that's logical. And in the bananas, if you put some plastic, like this paper plastic on the top, it slows the process of ripening. So that really helps. But for me, my favorite is the bay leaves. If you put bay leaves on the container for the pasta, for the rice, for the sugar, these disgusting insects that are in the picture, they won't appear. So like never ever. I have a bucket flower like with bay leaves and never ever have an insect. So I'm really, really happy with that. And then this really weird way to store the onions is like a panty, like a women panty, and you put the onion knot, and they will last forever, like that way. Then, as I said before, like when you do the provisioning for the crossing, buy fruits and veg in all stage of ripeness. Like be as much specific as you can, and they will make the effort like to give you a whole bag of bananas, super, super green. And it's like the vacuum, also like the meat, vacuum and frozen, and the potatoes and the onions in cool, dark, and ventilated, but never together. Like onions and potatoes need to be separated. And if you put an apple with the potatoes, it also prevents the sprouting of the potato. And that really, really works. And also, what I was surprised was like putting the tomato in a bag of bananas in making ripening really, really fast. If you want them to get ripe fast, I don't know if you guys do bread on board, but if you put the bread with the celery, it lasts fresh more than a day. And the lettuce, I do it like in the picture, like the wash dry and put in the container, but with the paper around, not on the plastic bags. So this was a picture of cleaning every piece of fruit before put it in on the place on board. And it's a lot of work, but it's really, really nice at the end. And the last for provisioning will be the waste at sea. I had like 2 buckets on the galley, one for the organics that will go overboard, and one for the rest, what is not organic. If it's any glass container, I reuse them or wash them. Always rinse any trash because the flies appears from nowhere if you don't clean it properly and there's some rest of food. And what we did is like put the recyclables apart, and when we arrived in Grenada, they have containers for recycling. So do the good job there and recycle the whole thing for the crossing. And this is the end for provisioning. Should I continue, Peter, or you want to talk in between?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. No, continue.
Okay. So same. This is the part of the presentation that we do for Viking. This part usually is done by a pharmaceutic, but I have seen it like so many years, and I make this list together with the pharmacy to make like the most complete first aid kit that you can have. So this book, the Ship's Captain Medical Guide, I think is the book that everyone should have on board. It's the best one that I've ever seen. And it's done by the guys that do the MSSO, Medical Officer Support. This is a company we're about to partner with that they offer courses of first aid. They help you prepare the kit, and they do offer telemedical support 24/7 during the crossing. So I think it's something really nice to have. And also these 2 books, it's also nice to have or learn or do some course prior to the crossing. Before you leave, the skipper should know all the problems, the medical problems that the crew have, or if they have any medication or allergies or anything that can be like a risk for their life. And the crew should be also briefed on the potential dangers if they have never been on a boat. For example, the boom, the sheets, the winches, everything. Because I remember myself, the first time I saw dolphins, I didn't care about what was on the deck, and I was running and hitting my feet with everything to go to the bow. So yeah, like, and I made blood on my feet because I hit everything. So it's good to know people to know the risk on the boat. Also, it's good to have 2 first aid kits. One with the things that you use like every day that is nothing serious, for example, plasters or some creams, and then one that is reserved like for bigger incidents. So you know that the first aid is ready when you're gonna need it. And I always use a plastic transparent bags, so I can see what it's inside really fast and there's no confusion, or a box where it's labeled. And also it's a good idea to have a list with all the medicines that you have on board and the expired date, so you can see easily which one is going to expire, and you don't have to check box by box every month or every 2 months. Then it's divided into in medical supplies and in medicines. So the medical supplies, I put all the pictures of all the things that it's nice to have. For example, the alcohol wipes, the plasters, the surgical tape, betadine, adhesive for wounds. The one in the corner, stereo strips, are really, really good. Like, I recommend everyone to have this, because if you have any cut, it's a really, really easy way to fix it, or bandage, elastic, thermometer, gloves. Like, this is pretty basic. And also the suture kit, like I know people that buy a piece of a pork and make a cut and then practice with the suture kits to do it. But it's not like, but then while sailing, it's not that easy because it moves. And so, yeah, but at least it's a good practice. And also it's nice to have the stapler and of course the remover. Like, if you feel brave enough to do it to yourself, like, it's good to have. Novekutang, this is a really, really, really good product. It's an adhesive that you put into the wound when it says you cannot go swimming because you have a cut. You put that spray and it creates like a plastic on the skin and you can get wet. So I think, like, being in the Caribbean, if you make any cut, it's a good product to have. And also dentist spray, because I think there's nothing worse that you have like tooth pain and like you're not going to be in antibiotics for 2 weeks. So something that reduce the pain, I think it's really, really cool. And then the medicines are by categories. For example, for the seasickness, these are all the options like you will find in Spain. Estrugeron and the other 4 are the same company, but with caffeine, without caffeine, or in chewing gum. The last one, the says chicles, is the one with chewing gum. And sun tips is like the seasickness is something a serious problem, like a lot of people suffer it. It takes around 3 days, like, to get used to the move of the boat and so on. Don't drink alcohol or fatty foods the day before you leave. Start with the medication 24 hours before and continue until you get it, but not longer than a week. That's what they said. And sugar and salt, like potato chips or ginger cookies, are also good to set in the stomach and help with the seasickness. The next one will be pain. Again, this is all the options you will have in Spain, like in tablets or in effervescente or in liquid, and so many different, but at the end, they all do the same. They are not expensive. Like, you should have enough, and at the end, if you have to throw them, like, it's better to have them, like, not to buy them because they were expensive. For fever, you have in pills and in suppository, that they say suppository is the most effective way to do it. Anti-inflammatory creams, like this one, Ibudol, the one in between, I think is the best one. Like, it's a roll-on, so it's really easy to apply, and then you don't have like smelly hands or nothing. And for the cough, same, like these 2 options. For the nausea, Motilium. That's the best in tablets. It really, really helps. And also for the heartburn, if you don't want to take pills, and apple. And apple does exactly the same thing, and it stops the heartburn, like 100%. For the diarrhea, constipation, and if you get also, it's really important to get the rehydration salts, just to have them. They have like a really, really long expire date. Like, you never know when you're gonna need them. For the cold, stuffy nose, a spray. For the allergy, for example, myself, I have allergy, so I have in the boat the EpiPen and all these pills just in case, and I cannot find them in the Caribbean, so I have them always with me. Eardrops and eye drops, I think it's really important that at least you have one of each, because being in the Caribbean all day in the water, like, you will need them. In the eardrops, the second one is also antibiotic. So it's really good to have one with antibiotic in case you have a lot of pain. For the skin conditions, there's all of, like, each of them has a use, like one for fungi, one for disinfect. The last 2, the crystalmina, they are for disinfect. One for calm, one for fungi. Yeah. Antibiotics. These are the 3 types of antibiotic that you should have. There's plenty more, but with these 3, you cover, like, almost, I will say, everything that might happen to you. And malaria. There are some pills called Malarone to try the malaria. I took them the first season in the Caribbean because I thought that I would die if I get malaria. And I was having hallucinations. I was having fever. I was like so sick for a few days because of the Malarone. So I stopped and I say it will be whatever it has to be. And at the end, I never got it. I've been there like 7 years continuously. And Buscapina, like antispasmodic. For the burns, I think it's really important to have things for the burns. The first one is cream. The second one, Linitul. It's also really cool. It's like apposites, like second skin to cover the burn, and also the water gel. Mosquitoes. There are mosquitoes in the Caribbean, that's true. So you have, like, for me, Goibi Extreme is the best spray because it's also protects from the Zika and the dengue mosquito. So, and then you have Taikistina, in case it bites you, like it helps reduce the bite and the itchy. And this injection on the corner is the vaccine against the dengue. But you cannot, it's only available if you have passed the dengue. It's not to prevent, it's like to prevent the second time. So you have to have dengue once to be able to get the vaccine. It's 2 shots, and yeah, it is expensive, but some people took it last year because they had dengue before and they don't want to have it again. So I put it here just in case someone had the dengue. And hemostatics, Celox, there's only one brand. And this cream is like 100% marvelous. It's called Blastostimulina. It helps to heal anything you have. It has 1% antibiotic. Like it treats really fast. It's like really, really good cream. And also, as I said before, if you have allergies or EpiPens or asthma, it's nice to have extra doses on the life raft in case you have to abandon the ship and you don't remember because you will be so under so much stress. Like it's already on the life raft. And that's all.
Excellent. Thank you, Carlota. I learned plenty of new things from both of you. I think after we finish the webinar, I'll watch it again to remember some of the tips and tricks. We have well, we can probably put our video on with Carlota and Sarah, so people see who they are talking to. In the meantime, it got dark here near Rome. We have some questions popping up. Let's see first from the chat box. I think it was Carlin who asked, and it can be either for you, Sarah, or for Carlota. What food would help to prevent seasickness? Either of you.
With regards to nutrition, I mean, obviously you don't want to eat heavy meals, and you've really got to listen to your body. Ginger, it's a bit of an obvious choice, but it really helps. So whether you take that in a tea, or whether you take that in the form of ginger nuts or ginger biscuits, really, I think it's just sort of listening to your body. All of a sudden, there'll be a moment when you want dry foods like dry biscuits, Ritz, they're called, like the cheese dry biscuits or things like that. They can really help too, just to get your stomach back. I also suggest having probiotics, which can just help rebalance the microbiome. And if anybody is interested in knowing more about that, if they ask Peter, and I can send you some info on the kind of probiotics I'd recommend for helping prevent that, or at least easing it when it happens, so you don't have your stomach sort of loss of the good bacteria there.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Carlota, do you want to add anything on this? Your tips and tricks?
Go ahead. Like I eat chips, salt chips, like help me with the ginger. Like that was my tip. Sarah's was more complete, so yeah.
All right. Okay, very good. Meanwhile, if anybody has a question, just unmute or put it in the chat box. I'm going over a number of questions that I picked up for myself. I'm just leaving a little bit of space here. If anybody else from the group has a question, otherwise we continue with the list that I have. Okay. Question to either of you, a practical question. I mean, we all know that desalinated water from the water maker tastes of nothing because it doesn't contain any minerals, no taste, etc., etc. What would be, and I start again with you, Sarah, what would be your tips, if you have any, or any experience on that, to add both in terms of nutrition value, if we can speak of nutrition value for water, as well as taste?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. So naturally, if you've got some mint in a market, that's always a good one. Mint with a bit of ginger. That I generally just get a chunk of ginger and hammer it with a rolling pin, so it's just squished rather than slice it, because then you really get the nutrients out and the oils of the ginger. You can use some lemon or lime or any kind of fruits that you have. I also use electrolytes, which are effervescent. So I put one of them, even if it says like, I don't know, for 500 ml, it doesn't matter. Put it in 100, a liter bottle or 2-liter bottle. It's fine. It's just a way of slowly getting electrolytes back into your body, especially on passage. And then you can also buy effervescent multivitamins, which again, you don't have to put it in a small amount of water. You can actually just have it. So it's just you're drinking it or sipping it throughout the day. So yeah, they would be my tips.
Okay, Carlotta, anything to add? Desalinated water from the water maker?
No, I have no idea on that. Sorry.
All right, very good. Let me see. Vali joined in and said, my water maker has 250 TDS. I think that water has some minerals. I'm not too sure what TDS is. Vali, you want to come in and elaborate a little bit? I don't see Vali unmuting. Let me ask him to unmute.
Hi, I just wrote it's total dissolved minerals. So yeah, it's quite high. The majority of water makers doesn't have this value. I even wonder if mine is broken or something. But it's true that the water has some taste.
Yeah. And TDS is a value of particles?
Yes, yeah, total dissolved minerals.
Okay.
Sorry, total dissolved solids.
Okay. But you're not too sure whether the water maker is working or not because it's such a high value.
Just the total.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Vali. Vali, you also had a question about antibiotics. Probably we'll pitch that to Carlotta. Carlotta, you mentioned some antibiotics in the package. Do we need a prescription in the Canaries for antibiotics?
You do, but the service that Peter mentioned that I'm dealing with for Nautical Essentials, I can get you anything without prescription. Like, because I have this deal with the pharmacy and he understands it's like to provide the first aid kit for a boat. So I will ask you for your boat papers and passport and to complete a tiny square with information. And then I'm able to provide you anything you want that requires prescription.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Carlotta. Then from Wanderer, are the medications noted, specifically those for specific purposes, or can they be bought over the counter and require, or do they require a doctor prescription? Beyond the, so that's for you, Carlotta, again. So beyond the antibiotics, any of the medications that is in your list, can they be bought over the counter, or do they require a doctor prescription?
Most of them, they will be over the counter. Like feel free to send me a WhatsApp, like my WhatsApp is on the group, and I will tell you which one requires or which one not, or any questions anyone might have. I'm available always on WhatsApp. But most of them, apart from the antibiotics and some creams and the malaria and the dengue, they don't require a prescription.
Okay, very good. The iPhone user also, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Peter. Julie here from Wanderer. Just a follow-up with
Go ahead.
back of Carlotta's response. So is that something that we can source from yourself, Carlotta? And also, one of your slides you mentioned about partnering with, is that MSOS? If we want to get one of their standard medical kit, is that also something that we can source from you, or do we have to reach out to them directly?
So the partner with MSOS is for the rally. Like they are like sponsoring the rally, giving a special price on the telemedical support and the kits and the courses. But you can contact them like they assist so many events and so many people. And the other part, like the information on the medicines, like I can help you with the botiquing and the prescription medicines, even with more things that are not on the list. Maybe you require some special things from your home and you don't have the prescription, like I can get that. But that's a part of the rally. That's my other company, like Nautical Essentials.
Oh, okay. Right. Wow. We're not part of the Viking rally to start with. So I'm just wondering if we would like to buy the MSOS standard medical kit, can we source it from you, or do we have to source it directly from the company?
You do it directly with the company, but they don't do only medical kits. They sell you the three things: the courses, the kits, and the telemedical support. Like they don't sell only telemedical support or only kits or only courses, because for them make no sense that they send you the kit with stuff that you don't know how to use because you haven't done the course, and then you have the telemedical support and you have no idea how to use it.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. Other than the standard kits, you know, the medications that you noted before, that is something that we can reach out to you and see whether you can source it for us. Great.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, very good. We have Julian from Lalaria. Our medical kit is quite extensive, but much is now out of date and we need to replace it. Any advice on where it is cheaper to source medication between mainland Spain versus Gibraltar versus Morocco versus the Canary Islands? Carlota, this goes back again to you.
Yeah, I don't have experience in Morocco, but I can tell you the Canaries is much cheaper than mainland Spain. And I don't know Gibraltar neither. So from mainland Spain, it's much cheaper to buy in the Canaries, and they can take your old ones because then they know what to do with that. And rebuy in the Canaries is much cheaper than mainland Spain, that's for sure. Because the taxes are different. Like in the Canaries is 7% and in mainland is 21%. And that applies to everything, like sugar, tobacco, alcohol, everything. So it's always cheaper in the Canaries.
Yeah. Okay. Caroline also joins in again on the question for desalinated water. She says that she uses water drops to refill electrolytes and taste. We have more interactions on the water maker. I had a question, and I think both of you mentioned cleaning fruits and vegetables. Now I've been on quite a number of different boats, and it looks like every skipper has his own rules in terms of cleaning vegetables. On one boat, I think that we used dissolved bleach. On the other one, we used a disinfectant soluble. What is your guys' tips and tricks on this? I'll start this one with the Yusa.
Okay, so when I worked in the food industry, you're talking parts per million of things like chlorine, so the bleach, what you would call bleach, obviously in minute quantities, but bleach is something that it's over a period of time. So if you've got a bucket of, and you put a couple of drops of bleach in and then throw in your vegetables, give them a quick twirl and pull them out, it won't be as effective as if you put much reduced amount and left them there for a longer period of time. So things like that are really, you know, it's just quite handy, and you can find lots of information online about that. I personally don't use bleach. I use apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar, whatever kind of vinegar I have. Again, for me, it's more about the time that it's in there, and I don't overbuy. That I don't have heaps and heaps and heaps of fresh fruit and veg on a passage, because I know it's just it ends up being a way. I can't stand wasted food. So I kind of look for the minimum, and the tips that Carlotta gave were fantastic about getting them in different stages and how to ripen them quicker and things like that. So really just my advice would be don't take as much. And when you're washing it, just give it a good wash with something like apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar.
Yep. Carlotta, you being a provisioner extraordinaire, your tips on this?
Same. I use apple cider vinegar mixed with water and leave it there, and then clean one by one with the clothes and get it dry, and then storage. So yeah, same.
Okay, very good. I had a follow-up question also that came in via another chat line. You mentioned, Carlotta, on avoiding cardboard on the boat because of the eggs of the cockroaches. How important is it, according to you, to take the paper labels of all of the cans before you store it?
I used to do that, like I wash them and then remove it and clean them. But then everyone said that it was paranoica, so I stopped doing that. But I do wash every can before putting on, not remove the label, but I do wash every can before storage. That's true.
Yeah, and washing it would again be with apple cider.
Yeah, same liquid. Like I have on a bucket and for everything. Like.
Yeah, and you, Sarah, are you super religious about taking all of the labels of the cans, or what's the rule on your boat?
No, I don't take the labels off the cans, unless for some reason they're damaged or and yeah, no, I kind of, yeah, no major rule for me on that.
Okay, very good. Doggy gives in the chat box an additional tip on additional first aid. And it starts, I'm starting having lightning outside here. Additional tips for the first aid kit. We had the question on antibiotics. So that was already answered. So as I think it is the case everywhere, normally antibiotics need a prescription. But then through Carlotta in the Canaries, you can get it through her company. Vivere is asking, Carlotta, can you get vaccines such as Qdenga in the Canaries?
Can you repeat? I didn't hear.
Yeah, it's a question from Vivere, whether you can get vaccines like Qdenga in the Canaries.
Yeah, it's available in the pharmacy, but it's also with prescription. It's 2 doses, and then you need a nurse to get you the injection. Like if you want, I have contact nurse that do it for the rally and goes to your boat, get you the injection, and he's qualified, so he put the stamp and knows how to do all the paperwork correctly. Because the second shot, you won't be in the Canaries, you will be in the Caribbean, because it needs few weeks in between.
Yeah, and how do you, out of my curiosity, how do you take the second shot with you and keep it in the fridge, or how do you do it?
Keep it on the fridge. It came like the bottle and the syringe and everything. So once they put the first shot, you keep it on the fridge until the second dose.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks. Vali, you mentioned of having a doctor on land on watch, ready to chat if there's an emergency. All right. Another question from a follow-up question on washing the fruit. Is there any concern for fruit and vegetables to have them completely dry for storage? Because typically he does not wash them before he stores. Sarah, I'm pitching it to you first.
Yeah, for me, this is key, to be honest. And it's almost like if wash your stuff, that's great. But if you're not going to dry it properly, don't wash it in the first place, because the water is what's going to, moisture is where bacteria grow. And yeah, so you've got to be really particular, especially with if you've got apples in the where the stem is, and with tomatoes and things like that. So if you're not used to washing and you're not somebody who's quite meticulous and detailed, then it's probably best not to go there, or to at least let them sun dry and then put them away. But yeah.
Yeah, Carlota, your pitch on this?
Agree, 100%.
Yeah, I still remember last year with the Viking explorers, where everybody kept on the aft deck of their boat all of the fruit and vegetables all out to dry. But I assume that some of the fruit and vegetables, especially leafy vegetables, are very difficult to dry, no, Carlota?
For example, the lettuce I dry with paper because you're not going to have the lettuce on the dock like getting dry. I use paper towels and get it dry. And then when it's completely dry, I store on the paper, on dry one, and then on the Tupperware, on the proof container.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, leafy vegetables, I think quite an ingredient also of the vegan kitchen.
Yeah, no, totally exactly what Carlotta said about having, I mean, sometimes, especially in the Canaries, you can buy salads and rucola with the root, which is brilliant if you've got space and you're able to keep it in the root, and then that way you can just take the leaves as and when you need them. That's fantastic. But obviously not everybody's boat is set up for that, or not everybody wants to do that. So if you are having things like lettuce or anything leafy, spinach especially, yeah, you've got to wash, dry, and then put in an airtight container.
Yeah, okay. From Julian on Lalaria, I think, Carlota, for you, you mentioned the three markets where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables. I think these are the three markets around Las Palmas, Marina, right? Are they open every day?
They open every day, but on Sundays only in the morning until 12. But there's in the market, there are so many different stands. There's also fish, there's also meat, but look for those because they like I shouldn't say that because I'm Canarian, but they like to ripe. Do you say ripe? Like no, like try to charge more to the foreign people. So the things have no price, and then at the end they charge you whatever they want because you're not gonna complain and you don't speak Spanish and you need it. So I also supply a provisioning and I give you the list with the final price, so there's no surprises, and you can be so specified as you want. Like I want 30 avocados, I want 15 green and 5 green and 10 to eat. So like be super specific, and then they have time to deliver to the boat. But if you go on your own, try to find the standard half prices on, just a tip, so they don't cheat on you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you have lists also. I think if I remember well from the Viking explorers, but you also provide this as a service where you have a whole list of everything you can supply, and people do.
You fill out being as specific as you want. The same for the meat. Like you have minced beef, but you want 4 packages of 100 grams each, and they all vacuum and package, and just write everything, and I translate into Spanish and send to the place, and they deliver to the boat.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Carlota. Sarah, back to you. Herbs, fresh or dry? By the way, did I tell you that the daughter of my partner and also my partner are vegan? So I'm a huge fan, and I do know in the way that they cook, and they're actually pretty good cooks. That they are very specific on their herbs, and that's really what makes, I think, on a kitchen. And specifically on a boat, it's not only healthy food, but in my view also tasty food. The herbs really make a difference. So your tips, dried or fresh, and what herbs?
Depends what it is. Okay, depends what it is. Things like parsley and basil or cilantro, which is coriander. So what I do, and I go in depth in this in my webinars, is we take the parsley, add some garlic, good pinch of sea salt, mix it all with a food processor, and then top it up with oil so that the oil is covering the top. Put it in a jar and have it in the fridge. And this will last as long as you keep topping up the oil, and it has a seal so no oxygen can get in. It will last the whole trip even longer. And basically what do you do? Whatever you're cooking, you've got some pasta and you're feeling a bit yucky, but you actually want something with a bit of taste. You just cook your pasta, throw in a dollop of that, whether it's the basil one or the parsley one or the coriander one, or even a mix of however you like it. Or if you're making a tomato sauce, a tin of tomatoes with a spoonful of this pre-made sort of like pesto-y kind of thing. If you want to, you can also add some nuts in there. So then you're boosting your healthy fats, your proteins, and you're having something really nutritious with nothing. So for the green kind of herbs, yeah. For the rest, oregano, I always use dry. Rosemary and basil are fantastic if you can get them fresh, but if not, dry. And then with regards to spices, I have both whole spices, so grains and seeds, which are really good because if you just put them in a tiny bit of oil, I heat the oil up and then put half a teaspoon of each of your favorite, like mustard seeds and cumin seeds, and just get that up. You pour that over a tomato and you have an amazing flavor. It just explodes in the flavor. So whole spices are great to get flavor in very little time. So yeah, that's my little tips.
Yeah, excellent. Carlota, any tips and tricks on spices? Or do you grow them on the boat, Carlota?
No, I have like albahaca plant and oregano, and I take it fresh. But yeah, just those. But I have like not like the level of tip that Sarah has. So.
Yeah, very good. A question from Valley for Carlota. He will leave from Santa Cruz in Tenerife. Is there an option also there for portioned meat?
I only research Gran Canaria and Lanzarote. I need to check Tenerife, but please send me a WhatsApp and I will find you options and send you the contact, like no problem.
Yeah,
but I know there's a market, and I know Iperdino is the main supermarket in the Canaries, and they do deliver to the pontoon, to the boat. If you spend 60 euros, that it's so easy. So they do deliver to the boat, and but for the meat, I will find out and let him. So please send me a WhatsApp.
Yeah. I was in Santa Cruz. I was actually stuck in Santa Cruz for 2 weeks last year in early December. There is indeed a fresh meat and fish market within walking distance from the marina. What I found a big difference between Santa Cruz and Las Palmas is we had problems without a car to find big supermarket. They're like, but in Las Palmas we have the big supermarket. What is the Hiperdino, which is in walking distance. I think it's 5 minutes walk from the marina. But in Tenerife, I didn't find that. So that was a little bit of our challenge, especially if you don't have a car. If you have a car, it's completely different. Do you? So if I understand it well, you provide services also in Lanzarote, Carlota, or is it only in Gran Canaria and Las Palmas?
No, in both Gran Canaria and Lanzarote, because I'm doing it for the Grand Large Yachting. The boats are leaving from November from Lanzarote. There are only catamarans. So I did the research for them, and so now it's Lanzarote and Gran Canaria.
Okay, very good. Monica from Viveri followed up on my. I was half joking about pot plants. Monica says that they're growing their own chili. Hey, I'm all with you. I'm a big chili fan, and I grow my own chili here on the terrace. She grows her own chili, thyme, aloe. I think rosemary is basil is probably also possible on the boat. Any tips on growing your own spices? I'll pitch it over back to you, Sarah. Or do you think it's more of a bother than rather than any sort of insects rather than using dried seeds? Go ahead. Dried spices, sorry.
I think it's a really personal thing. If that's something you really enjoy doing and you've got green fingers, then go ahead, and I think it's fantastic. And it's certainly a great way to make friends in Anchorage, taking some fresh herbs over or some fresh chilies over to them. I'm a bit of a basil massacreist. So as much as I would love to be able to grow basil, I just can't seem to grow basil on board. I have done other stuff, coriander and parsley, and that's worked really well. But again, I think it's really just a personal thing. If you get pleasure out of that and you're good at it, then you'll find a way of making it work on the boat.
Yeah, very good. Let me just leave a pause for a moment, see if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question.
Sprouts.
No, we have from the iPhone user. What about growing sprouts? Yeah, Sarah.
I pop in on this one. I grow sprouts on the boat too. I did a webinar for Super Yacht Crew on growing their own sprouts in their own bedrooms, in their own cabins on board, to be able to just add them to salads and things like that. So yeah, it's super easy to do. And yeah, I have a little PDF thing. If people are interested, I can send them that out. That's no worry. So yeah, you can use lentils, chickpeas, you can use anything to grow sprouts. And after a couple of days, it works, and it's great just to add them to salads. As I say, it's just a great source of probiotic and awesome for your gut.
Yeah, just for my clarity's sake, sprouts is soy sprouts, right?
It can be any sprouts. It can be lentil sprouts. So you can use your dried lentils that you buy in Hyberdino, and you can use, you've got the beans as well. You can sprout them. Any dried legume you can sprout.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Is that what they were asking? I just went off on my tangent of sprouting legumes. I hope that was what they were referencing.
I think so. Yeah, it was from the iPhone user. If anybody asks a question and wants to elaborate on the question, just unmute or put it in the chat box. We have Wanderer, Julie. You want to expand a little bit on your question or your remark on your growing adventures on the boat?
I wouldn't call it adventure, but thanks. No, I bought this a special sort of pots. I think it's a Scandinavian design. Can't remember what country it is. Basically, it comes with a water storage and different pots, and they sell the soil, which is made up of coconut fibers and something else that kind of helps to grow stuff. And you can buy various different seeds from them. So I've grown basils, chilies, Asian veg, like pak choy on it, and it does very well. And I don't have to water it every day. The only downside of it, especially if you're on a monohull, obviously, is well,
How do you keep it from tipping over and going all over the boat?
The water will slosh over. But in terms of, because we're on a catamaran, it's not so much, it's not a big problem. And I do put it outside, but it does comes with special lighting on it as well that you can keep indoor to help it grow faster, basically. So which is great. I mean, I've been growing my own Thai birds chilies on board, so that was awesome. I've grown pak choys before, and I decided I don't like it anymore, so I just pluck it out and do something else. And the basil grows really well. Although one thing that I would say is obviously some herbs doesn't grow well in colder climate, so that's just something to bear in mind. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Julie. There was a question from Carlin. Other tips in terms of cooking equipment beside pressure cooking and vacuum? By the way, I totally subscribe the tip on pressure cooking. Makes it so much easier, faster, safer, but also, according to me, much more savory because it really keeps the flavors condensed. So apart from pressure cooking and vacuum, Carlota, first you. Any other equipment? I think people are thinking of what to put on the Christmas wish list.
No, I only have the high pressure cooker, one pan, and one for pasta. It's like really limited because I don't have a lot of space, but that's all I need. Like nothing fancy. I can do everything.
And how do you make a coffee on the boat?
No, we only drink tea. So we have the machine to press the fresh tea. And the acai and all those. Yeah, no, we don't drink coffee. Only outside.
Okay. Sarah.
Yeah, I on my blog actually write about different pieces of equipment and how useful they are and how versatile they are, but in a very quirky way. So if you check out the blog on that for that. But yeah, for me, a potato peeler is really key because that means that I can also peel vegetables and toss them, so for a stir fry rather than chopping with the knife, which can be dangerous depending what you're doing. If you've got a carrot, a courgette, you can just literally use the potato peeler to get big slices, and then you can chop them any way you want if you need to. So potato peeler is a big one, a spatula, because it just, whatever you're, not just for cooking, but also for emptying things out, the waste, and makes it easier for washing dishes. So if you've got a pan and then you just use your spatula all the way around it to get the last remains out, you just really need a tiny bit of water to wash, which is great for those who need to be thinking about that. I also have a handheld blender, which I use daily. That's a really big piece of equipment. My pressure cooker, I wrote quite extensively about pressure cookers for Noonsight and for Noforeignland, and it's on my website as well. So pressure cookers, and making cakes in them is great as well. And so there's heaps of things you can use. But yeah, I have lots of little bits of equipment. Even though it's a small boat, I still you find them really useful and versatile. Something's got to have more than one use in order to have a place in my kitchen or my galley.
Yeah, there's a question that comes in terms of resources and where to find more information. First, you again, Sarah, well, we have you online. You mentioned a PDF, I think, on Sprouts. You mentioned your blog. Can you explain a little bit more what you do? And you were also talking about you giving webinars. Can you explain a little bit more what you do on your blog and in the webinars, if people are interested? And we will distribute the links after our webinar here. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so it's just basically with that nutrition idea and focus of being able to find, give your body what it needs when you're sailing. I'm just looking at how I can create recipes in a really tiny kitchen or a tiny galley with the things that you generally have when you're sailing. And so I talk about, I interview people, so super yacht chefs or other sailors or cruisers, and we get a tour around their galley. I talk about equipment, which I use, but as I say, in a bit of a quirky way too. I also talk about a superfood, which is really easy to source and can really enhance our mood or our physical how we're moving and things. And I also give a recipe for that superfood, so at least you know what to do with it. And the recipes are always very simple and able to be cooked in a very small and basic galley. So that's all on the website, and you can sign up to a newsletter which comes out monthly, which gives you access to finding all of this information. The webinars, there are 4 webinars. One is provisioning for passage. The other one is plant-based on board. So those who are looking to be plant-based or thinking it might be a good idea to know a bit more about how to cook plant-based food. The feeding a family at sea is another one, because obviously children in the mix with limited source, products that you can source can also prove to be problematic. Also written an article on Noonsight about that with recipes and ideas. And then the last one is bread on board, which is I have worked in the food industry extensively, of which a lot of time was in a bread factory in New Zealand. And so understanding what makes bread tick and how to replicate and make sure that you can make bread, knowing that the flour you're buying isn't the same in one country, let alone going across continents. And so basically not necessarily a recipe, but what you're looking for at each stage in the flour making process, so that you can then adapt and change things. So they're the webinars that I have at the moment. And then I do one-on-one coaching as well for those who are looking at running a more sustainable galley or looking at plant-based on board. So that's the kind of work that I do. And
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. By the way, Sarah is also in our WhatsApp group, as is Carlota. Carlota, in terms of resources, how people can contact you, is there an online resource in terms of the services that you provide?
I have a Facebook page, but it's not quite active because I do everything through WhatsApp. I will share the brochure with information and the reviews if someone wants to read the reviews from all these past 10 years. And anyway, I'm also available on WhatsApp. Like, I try to be super quick with everyone responding. So yeah, WhatsApp is the best way to contact for anything.
Yeah, thanks. We had Judy from Wonder also giving an extra tip in terms of storing things. I mean, both of you ladies have stressed the importance of vacuum packing things. And Judy shares the tip of storing pastas, rice, flour, noodles into clothing vacuum bags. And I think, Judy, this is also because then you can open the bag, but then re-vacuum it rather than having to reseal a normal vacuum bag. Julie?
Yeah, that's right. So I basically buy heaps of these from Amazon before we crossed. Some of them obviously just a leftover that I use for beddings and clothings, change of seasons and whatnot. But I use, I basically use them to vacuum rice, pasta, like Carlotta mentions before. Some of the pastas that you buy in Caribbean, they're not very, I guess there's some
Not very high quality.
yeah, there's some leaks from the bags, so you can tell with the powdery stuff that's coming off. So they're not the best quality of packaging, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Therefore, I tend to basically, instead of like buying tons of containers, I basically resorted to buying these, kind of vacuum bags, and you can easily buy them from any homeware kind of shops and vacuum it. Like you say, you take out one and then you reseal it easily as long as you have a vacuum on board, obviously. So I did the same with flour, noodles, rice, any sort of legumes, basically any dry foods, really. The other thing is I would agree with Carlotta as well. Any cans that we bought, I'm pretty strict with it. I take out the stickers, I clean up all the residual glues on them, and I wash them and I dry them. Sorry, I'm with Carlotta on that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Quite religious then before any can enters your pantry.
Yeah, just because, especially, I think coming back to Sarah's point about not stocking a lot of like fresh or overbuy, vegetables. I do agree because it just doesn't last very long, and what we tend to do is, especially if you go to any sort of French islands or mainland France, they're very good with their whole canned vegetables. Like there are tons of them, millions of them. So when we cross from Saint Martin, we basically stock up a lot of these, and some of them are really, you'll be surprised, it's actually really, really good quality canned vegetables that you can just toss in and stir fry and all that kind of stuff. So that sort of helps with, I guess, a bit of nutrition at the back of it. May not, be comparable to as of eating fresh, but you still, I guess, consume some, vegetables at the back of it.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Julia. Julie, sorry. Last question to both of you ladies. If we can summarize a little bit on storing. I think we're good on vacuum packing. We're good on storing it in Ziploc bags and in containers to protect it. But I think the main challenge is to have your fruits and vegetables lasting. I picked up a couple of tips from both of you. Avoid bruising. Carlotta had some tips about what you should not store together in terms of mixing certain fruits and vegetables. We talked about cleaning them, making sure that fruits and vegetables are properly dry before we store them. Some vegetable, I think it was potatoes you mentioned, Carlotta, in a dry, ventilated area. Any other tips and tricks to have the vegetables last? I've been on boats where we had the last crossing I did, we had no, not the last one, the last one. We had no freezer and we had only a very small fridge, but we basically put it on to save electricity, almost on a cooling range. So we were very meticulous in trying to have the little fruits and vegetables that we have last longer. Any more magic tricks to have those fruits and vegetables last longer? Carlota first.
I think I mentioned it before, the beeswax paper, like I love it. Like it preserve, if you cut half apple or half avocado and you put it for the cheese, like it really maintains really, really longer, like more than the plastic or just leave it in the fridge. So I think that's the element that I will have. I have in the motorhome, I have on the boat, I have everywhere, like the beeswax paper. And
Yeah.
they also sell this beeswax paper, but in bags, not just the paper, so you can store inside and then roll it. So it's easier than the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, magic trips to have fruits and vegetables last longer?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it depends on where you're buying them as well. So, for example, you can buy avocado here in Brazil, where you split it open, you can leave it on the counter for a day, it won't brown at all. So the chemicals that are being used in you know, the harvesting, oh, sorry, not the harvesting, but the cultivation of these vegetables can actually make a big difference into how they last. So if you can buy organic, I always believe when we worked in the food industry, our key was what you bring in, the process is not going to change. So if you bring in, pardon the expression, shit tomatoes, you're going to end up with shit tomatoes at the end. And it's just something that we know from the food industry. So buying the quality from the beginning is really key. And Carlota will be able to help you in the Canary Islands. They have great fruit and veg. So I put my avocados that are in the fridge to slow them down. Before cutting them, I find that if you keep and bananas as well, I can put in the fridge. I don't like to, but especially if I'm going to use them for smoothies. But I tend to just use my recipes according to the kind of fruit and veg and how I know it's going to mature, so that there isn't any waste.
Yeah.
Another reason why I wash the fruits is because a few years ago, years ago when I was a kid, I bought an apple and I was eating the apple and I got an allergic reaction. And then I make the test and I was allergic to the product they put to the apples to look shiny because they don't look that shiny. So yeah, that's another reason to buy organic.
Yeah. But Carlota, you also mentioned the importance of not buying refrigerated fruits and vegetables. But I did not catch why it is important. Is it because when you buy refrigerated fruits and vegetables, you need to keep them in the fridge to maintain them? Or is it a question of they won't last that long, or they will all of a sudden start to ripen? Why was that?
It's both. Like if you buy the refrigerated, they need to keep refrigerated because if not, they will ripe very fast. So if you buy them not on the fridge, they will last much longer. And then with the chips, they will last forever. Not forever, no, but they will last longer than buying refrigerated. Same with the eggs. Yeah.
Same with the eggs, and not to refrigerate. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Sarah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, any food that you do cut and cook even with leftovers, and using oil is a fantastic way, especially olive oil, and a bit of that garlic and parsley sauce that I mentioned to you before is a great way of preserving things once they're cut. So if you've cut too much tomato and you're not going to use it, rather than put it back in the fridge for it to get bashed, bruised and make a mess, then if you just continue to slice it up and then add some oil over it, then it's a great way of preserving, and obviously a good pinch of salt too. The salt will slow down the bacteria.
That's another tip. It's like buying the Canaries as much olive oil as you can store, because it's so bad in the Caribbean. It's not even pure. Like you pay a lot and it's not even pure. It's really bad. So it's stock as much as you can.
Yeah, but I think we should encourage people to divert their boat and come to Italy and buy olive oil in Italy over here, rather
also
than
on the way. Exactly, on the way.
Yeah. Very good. We come at the end of our webinar. Again, both Carlota and Sarah are on our WhatsApp group. If you have follow-up questions to either of them, let me know. As you know, the webinar is recorded. I will share the link to the recording, as well as the list of resources where to find both Carlota and Sarah online. Our next webinar is, I think, Tuesday, 2 weeks from now. I just put it on the WhatsApp group, and we're talking about a completely different topic. We're talking about cruising through the Orca territories. With this, I thank both again wholeheartedly Carlota and Sarah on a topic which is very close to my heart in feeding the crew, keeping a crew happy, and also keeping a crew healthy. Thanks again, both of you ladies, and thanks everyone for joining us. And I'll see you for our next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.